That was aggressive. Hey guys, welcome back to the Elevate podcast. My name's Em. If you don't know, now you know. How are you guys? It's been a long time. It feels like a long time. I haven't recorded since December, which is crazy because I recorded the episode with Ken. I took like a week, almost 2 weeks off. Put the episode with Ken up on Sunday. I guess technically Saturday, but it took forever to render and upload to YouTube, so I think the YouTube went up on Sunday. But anyways, it's been a long time. How's the beginning of your year gone? How was your January? I had really, really high hopes for the beginning of the year. You know, I set out with a lot of like good intentions and good routine, and that kind of all went to shit. We went to Calgary a couple weekends ago, which was really, really nice. Got to see my brother before the semester started for him. Like, that was awesome. And then I got home, and I've thought for a long time that I was dealing with PMDD. I'm not going to fully go into what PMDD is, but long story short, I've thought for months, almost probably like close to a year and a half, that I was dealing with PMDD, but I wasn't 100% sure. But I know that there's also a correlation with ADHD in women and PMDD. So let me just tell you, this past month has taken me out. I have been just like unwell in all ways, shapes, and forms. My routine has gone to shit. Like, it's just been a mess. So that's okay. It's early in the year. I'm trying really hard to not let myself define the rest of my year by the first 3 weeks, because it's just not realistic and it doesn't need to be that way. So I hope you guys had a good January. I hope you enjoyed the episode with Kendall last week. I love recording with Kendall every single time. We don't see each other very often, and when we do, we almost always record an episode just because they're fun to do. Like, they're so much fun. Last week's episode was really fun. I will say it took me like almost 7.5 hours to edit over the course of 3 days, because I had 2.5 hours of footage and I got it down to 1 hour and 15 minutes, which is still long. And I know that some people are like, oh, it's too long for an hour. I don't really care. If you're listening to a Kendall and Me episode, you're not really listening to it for it to be super informative. You're listening for like shit talking for an hour, you know? So anyways, I hope you guys like that episode. Also, when I'm recording this, it's the 18th. So it's Saturday. So we'll know more by the time this episode comes out. But as of right now, TikTok is still getting banned in the States tomorrow. And I don't really know how that looks. If I'm being honest, I haven't paid super close attention to it because it doesn't directly affect me. I don't know if it's like the app is going dark and actually getting like banned, or if it's just no longer going to be updated. I don't know. But that's crazy. That's crazy. The state of just life in the States, right? Like, insane. I don't even know how to like begin talking about that topic. If you listen and you live in the States, I just want to say sorry for the way that the world is existing in your country right now. Like, insane. And I don't even know how to process that, or how to like, I don't even know what my thoughts about it are. I hope you guys had a good start to your January. I hope that this TikTok ban gets kind of sorted and figured out and something good comes of it. But we're just going to kind of jump into today's episode because I think it's a really fun topic. So I think part of why I felt really dysregulated and just kind of a mess the past couple weeks was I am like I am like permanently overstimulated during holidays, during busy seasons of life, because I'm painfully introverted. As Kendall and my mom say, I'm a very extroverted introvert. I like being around people until I don't. And the second that switch flips, I need to leave. Like, I need to go home, which is why I'm really good at Irish goodbyes, because I don't care to say bye to people. I need to leave. So holidays can be rough just because it's a lot more people in like my every single day, and work is busy, and I have like work parties and New Year. Like, there's just so much more going on than what typically goes on in my life. So I thought it would be fun to talk about different ways that you can kind of introduce self-care into your life as an introvert, and how to properly recharge yourself if you're an introverted person. We're going to kind of explore the unique self-care needs of introverts, because they are very different from extroverts, and how they can recharge without feeling guilty. Introverts often need like quiet, solitude, and personal space to restore energy, whereas if you're an extrovert, your form of like recharging is going out with friends. It is seeing people. It's going to the bars. It's going to drinks. It's going to do all these activities that involve being surrounded by a bunch of people. Society tends to celebrate extroverted qualities like being sociable and active more than introverted qualities. So we're going to kind of discuss how introverts can honor their needs for rest while maintaining a sense of balance in their lives and not succumbing to a feeling of guilt or self-judgment, because it can be tricky. It's a hard thing to navigate balance because you do obviously, even introverts have like social needs. Okay, I feel like I've talked about Sims a lot in the last couple episodes, but it's like when you play Sims, you can have like an introverted Sim, and in that character definition, their fun need, if you've never played Sims, you probably don't know what I'm talking about, but if you do, you get it. Their fun need goes down significantly slower than like a sociable, outgoing, extroverted Sim, because they just don't need that like in-person interaction to fully recharge. Even if you do classify yourself as an introverted person, you do still have social needs, and it's a really hard thing to find that balance between wanting to be social, going to see friends, maintaining your relationships in life, while also refreshing and regenerating your personal need to be lonely, not lonely, but alone. Introverts are typically energized by solitude and quieter environments. They may feel drained after social events, even if they enjoy them. That's me. That's what I always say to people. I love going to see friends. I love going out. I like doing dinners and drinks and whatever it is. I really struggle with finding that balance between enjoying myself when I'm out and then not feeling like completely and utterly drained afterwards. And I do have specific people in my life that I can go do all those things with and don't feel drained. That's one of the reasons that Kendall and I are such good friends. We just tend to exist around each other when we hang out. You know, she'll come stay at my house for a weekend, and like the one day we went bowling, and we did bowling for a couple hours and did drinks and supper and whatever else. And then we came home, and I think we sat on the couch on opposite sides of the couch and sat on our phones for a couple hours. Like we just have a good balance of having those like meaningful interactions and activities together, and then also just coinciding and existing beside one another. There is a difference between introversion and being shy. Not all introverts are socially anxious. They simply prefer low stimulation settings. I would say I'm slightly socially anxious, but there's definitely more of just I don't like being overstimulated by people, and I'm very easily overstimulated by people. So there is certain aspects of your brain chemistry that can affect the way you react to social situations. Typically, people who would classify themselves as introverts have a lower level of dopamine sensitivity in their life, especially again when it comes to those social situations. The dopamine that you receive from walking into a very crowded room of people, an extrovert might thrive with that level of dopamine input in their life, whereas an introvert, it can be very overwhelming and overstimulating. After social interactions, introverts typically need to like restore their social battery, is how I always say it, especially if the environment was loud, crowded, or overstimulating. That's also, there's a big difference between me having a couple friends over, us sitting in the living room, very casual gathering, as opposed to like me going out somewhere and being surrounded by hundreds of people. Very different levels of like social battery that comes from that. I thrive in a little friend group, sitting on the couch, watching the game, or playing cards, or doing stuff like that. I don't necessarily thrive in giant crowded rooms of a million people that I don't know, that I have to try and make fake conversation with. I think there's also a big societal pressure to be social and consistently social. If you are not going out with friends twice or more a week, then you're a hermit, you're hiding out, you're not encouraging your friendships, all of this. Many people feel pressure to always say yes to social gatherings, work events, or family obligations. And there is a big misconception that resting or saying no makes you like lazy or antisocial. Neither of those are true. And I think, again, this is where a big part of that balance comes in, because we've talked about this before. As time goes on, people are losing their third spaces in life. Most people that are my age don't have a third space. You have work and home, and that's about it. There's very few people who have a consistent third space, and if you're an introvert, it can be very difficult to curate that third space without it being, like, your third space is supposed to be something that encourages you in life. It's supposed to be fulfilling. It's supposed to be rewarding. And if you're introverted, your third space being like a restaurant that you and your friends go to multiple days a week can be overstimulating. It might not provide the comfort of being a third space, and instead it's now another chore that you have to do that includes societal pressures to leave your house and talk to people all the time. It can be really difficult to balance the need for alone time, and I don't like saying solitude because that makes it sound like you're like isolating yourself, but just being alone, doing things by yourself, doing solo dates, whatever else. You have to balance that, and you also have to balance the fact that you should still encourage your friendships. You do need to like actively nourish and participate in your relationships in every aspect of your life. And you're not lazy for not wanting to go out. There's so many levels to this that we could go into. Even just the fact that like, because people don't have a third space that doesn't cost them money, a lot of the time hanging out with your friends or going out to see people involves spending a lot of money. We are in a cost of living crisis across the world, especially in North America. Like, we are in a cost of living crisis. People are poorer than they have ever been. My dad always says Canada is some of the richest poor people that you've ever met. You see all these people flaunting their massive house and their boat and their cabin and all this shit. They don't actually have any money. They're in mass amounts of credit card debt, and they have loans up to their fucking eyeballs. It can be hard to navigate friendships when you're an adult because so many people are in very different life stages. I have friends that I haven't seen in months because our work schedules don't line up, and they have, you know, some of them have family. Like, some of them have spouses and children and activities that their kids go to. Like, just the diversity of life stages when you're in an adult friendship is insane, and it can make it really difficult to navigate trying to have like interactions with those friends that fit both of your lifestyles and both of your schedules and don't result in spending money. One of my friends, for example, has a baby. Well, I guess he's not a baby. He's like a year and a half, which is crazy. Oh, that's insane. But anyways, she has a baby. He's a baby. He's always going to be a baby. In my head, that is a baby. He's a baby. She has a baby. So it can be difficult to find a good balance between not wanting to spend money, but also wanting to leave your house because, hey, it is important that you go do things outside of your house, but also understanding that if you say no to things, it's not because you're antisocial, and maybe you are. And if you're antisocial, that's a whole separate problem. We're talking about introversion, not being antisocial. Don't be antisocial. You need friends, you need family, you need support, you need your village, even if you don't, you need your village, regardless of how that looks in your life. But if I'm saying no to hanging out with somebody because it's not what's going to fulfill me that day, or if I'm feeling really overwhelmed, or if I just simply don't have the social battery to go out and do a million things, it doesn't mean I'm lazy. It doesn't mean I'm antisocial. It simply means that that's not something that's going to benefit my life that day. And that's okay. It's not me being a bad friend. Obviously, unless I'm saying no every single time that my friends want to hang out, and I haven't seen my friends in like 6 years because I'm like, I don't want to leave my house. Again, separate issue. The guilt that comes from saying no to plans typically stems from overcommitment, societal expectation, and like the self-imposed pressure to be extroverted. Society prefers an extrovert. I'll just say it. Truly, society prefers an extrovert. There is like this weird mentality that if you are extroverted, it means you are characteristically a better person in whatever way, shape, or form. And I just don't think that's true. I'm not saying that extroverts are bad people. Don't twist that and come for me. I'm just saying that your preference of social interaction in your life, I don't believe that has a direct impact on your characteristics as a person. Fun fact, side note, I couldn't say characteristic until I was like 17. I said characteristic for 17 years of my, well, not actually 17 years of my life. When do you learn that word? I don't know, you're like 4? Probably for sure not. But anyways, I couldn't say characteristic for a really long time. There's also this weird mentality that if you're an introvert, it's something that you have to work on. You have to work on being more extroverted, which, okay, I will say it's something I had to work on when I moved for university because even, oh my God, my mom, I never wanted to live on res, like on campus, never wanted it, never had any interest in it. And my mom tried so hard. This is obviously like before lockdown happened and before we knew what my first year was going to look like. But my mom had convinced me that for my first year of university, I should live on campus because it would allow me to not be a recluse and hide in my house. Because my mom thought I was going to be like a hermit, which she's probably not wrong. So I was a little bit extremely introverted, and I think I'm now like reverting back to that. So in my life, it is something that I slightly need to work on. Not being more extroverted, because I don't know that I'll ever be classified as an extrovert, but just being more willing to leave my house and go do things and see people. Being an introvert is not something that you have to work on. You don't have to try to be more extroverted. If you were an extrovert, I don't know that anybody would come up to you and say like, oh, you should really work on like wanting to be alone more, because that would be weird. And the same energy should go towards being an introvert. You shouldn't go up to an introvert and be like, you should really try to like socialize more. You know, you should try and leave the house more. Why? It's fucking weird. Don't say that shit to people. So there's a couple ways that you can kind of practice practical self-care for introverts. Setting aside specific time either in your day or week for solitude, designated as a non-negotiable, just like a meeting or an appointment. I think that's one of the important things that people tend to forget when it comes to being an introvert and trying to regulate your emotions and stuff. You need to treat your time as if it's important, because it is important. But people make fun of me all the time because maybe this is in part with my ADHD, I don't know, but I have like every hour of my day scheduled out my calendar. I think we've talked about this. Like from the minute I wake up, every minute in my calendar is scheduled out to a T every week. I do it every single week, and I have parts in there where it's like today, for example, it's Saturday when I'm recording this. Saturday is typically like my chiller day. I literally have it blocked in when I'm gonna go take a shower and like get ready for bed, when I'm gonna make my supper, and when I'm gonna sit on the couch and watch a movie and play Sims for like 3.5 hours tonight. It's in my calendar because it's not a negotiable thing for me. Like I actively have to treat my recharge time as a non-negotiable because it shouldn't be negotiable. You can't like bypass that. Just like if I was an extrovert, I wouldn't classify me seeing my friends as like, well, like I don't really have to do well, no, because that would be something that like fulfilled my soul and made me happy. You should be prioritizing that every single week. If you're an introvert and you're looking for activities to do by yourself, reading is a great one. I started getting back into reading this year, you guys. I'm 2 books down and we're 3 weeks into the year, and last year I didn't finish a single physical book. So far we're doing pretty good. But yeah, reading's a really good activity. Journaling, anything creative it stimulates a really good part of your brain that isn't frequently stimulated if you're not actively engaging it. I think finding your quiet space, or like essentially setting up a personal sanctuary kind of in your house or even outside, whether that's like, you know, a cafe that you go to every weekend or a library or nature spot. Having a designated space to recharge in is key. This is not something that I do, and I need to work on it. For a really long time, I didn't really go in my bedroom ever unless I was sleeping, which is still probably something I should do and something I need to get back to doing because my sleep routine has been all thrown off, and it was really, really good when I was prioritizing not being in my bed for anything other than sleep. But yeah, like finding a space in your house that is kind of like, here's your quiet little bubble in your house or anywhere else. Like if you want to like go somewhere and sit alone somewhere, that works too. But having a designated space that it's like, here is my recharge spot. Like this is where I'm going to sit and recoup from the week is a really good idea. Obviously, like mindful practices can be really important for anybody, but especially if you're introverted. Journaling, mindfulness, deep breathing exercises and stuff. Anything that helps promote relaxation and kind of that emotional healing. It can be a really good quiet reflection time to process your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. This is one thing that I'll say even extroverts should do, because I think, again, like social norms of an introvert is you're quiet, reflective, and all this stuff, and an extrovert is not. I think extroverts should also set aside quiet time to practice mindfulness in whatever ways. It can be really helpful to just process your feelings and emotions from the week or the month or the day, whatever that looks like. Focusing on solo hobbies that can bring you joy and fulfillment. Again, reading's a really good one. Knitting. I want to try knitting. I tried crochet once, like right after lockdown started. I spent so much money on stuff for crocheting. Tried it for maybe less than a day, and I was not good at it, and I gave up, and I never touched it ever again. So there was like probably $200 of crochet stuff that down the drain. Never fucking touched it again, but I do want to try knitting. Crafting, painting, playing an instrument. Hey, remember? I don't think you can see it. Remember when I bought a guitar like 2 years ago? And I still don't know how to play guitar because I gave up on it. It's also really important to find outdoor activities that you can do by yourself. Whether it's like hiking, going for a walk, gardening, either type of gardening, whichever works in your life. Go outside. It's so important for your emotional regulation and just your mental health and physical health. Find things to do outside. Make sure you're safe. Long story short, go outside. Go for a hike. Go for a walk. Go literally sit outside. One of my favorite things to do in the summer, when I get off work, there's a park like 2 minutes from my house. I'll grab my backpack, grab some water, and go sit at the park for hours. Hours and hours and hours and hours. Like, it's one of the best things you can do. And it makes you feel like you accomplished something, even if all you did was sat on a blanket and stared at the lake. This is another big one that can be really important for people to learn, is how to set boundaries with others when it comes to your choice to recharge alone. Learning to say no without feeling guilty. Practicing like gentle but firm ways to decline invitations or take breaks from social situations. Like a good example of that is like, oh, I'd love to catch up, but I need some quiet time today to recharge. You know, and obviously that would look different in every person's life and in every situation, but finding ways that work for you to kindly say no to people and not like to fully turn people down and be like, no, I don't want to hang out with you. I don't think you don't owe people an explanation for any decision that you make in life, but I think as an introvert, it can be helpful, especially if you have extroverted friends, to give some clarification as to why you're declining their invitation. I'm not just sitting here and saying, nope. I'm saying, hey, I'd really love to come out, but I'm just feeling overwhelmed and I would like to stay home and recharge. You know, finding ways to explain your emotions behind it without needing to give a full explanation, because you don't need to sit there and say like, I'm so sorry, like I really wish that I could come out and blah, 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 blah. You also don't need to lie to people. You don't need to lie and say that you're busy. If you want to, whatever, I can't tell you not to, but simply just being honest and setting healthy boundaries with people in your life can make it so much easier for them to also understand why you're saying no to the hangout. A really common misconception is that rest is unproductive. Taking time to recharge is just as productive as going out or being social for some people. I think downtime can really help introverts process their emotions, reflect on the experience, and come back to the world with renewed energy and clarity of their life. If you put an introvert in very extroverted situations for multiple days on end, chances are they are going to be a fucking mess. They are going to be exhausted mentally and physically. They're going to feel like shit. They are not going to be very nice people. Not because they're mean, but just because if your body is constantly in like fight or flight, your body, like, it's just not healthy. It's just not good for your emotional regulation. Introverts may thrive in like small, intimate settings. Again, I would much rather sit and play games with my friends than go out to the bar. It's okay to choose depth over like breadth when it comes to relationships and activities. If I'm giving in and going out with my friends like 4 or 5 times a week, even though I'm miserable the whole time, it's going to be a lot less rewarding for my friendships than if we just had one day a week or once every 2 weeks where we all went to somebody's house and we did food and games or a movie or something that nourished myself as a person. Obviously, in a friendship and relationship, you do have kind of compromises in how you hang out. I have some very, very extroverted friends, and that does mean that sometimes we're going out because that's what's going to help them, that's what's going to fuel them and recharge them. And I want them to feel like that. I also want to hang out with them. So I'm going to put on a brave face, be happy for the night, and then just know that the next day I need to really focus on recharging myself, because we just exist in different ways, and that's okay. Just because you're introverted doesn't mean you can't have extroverted friends. It just means that sometimes your hangouts look a little bit different, and you have to be adaptable to other people and how they also feel recharged in life. The solitude that comes with being an introvert can also enhance like your creativity and your problem solving and personal growth. I think that's why a lot of people, especially back in the day when when long form content was the big push, a lot of YouTubers were very introverted and like kind of loners. And from that came their creative projects that turned into content in whatever way, shape, or form. Spending time alone doesn't mean that you're wasting that time. It can mean that you are investing time into your mental and emotional well-being. It's really important to accept the fact that you simply are who you are. If you are introverted, very slim chances are you going to magically make a 180 and become the most extroverted person you ever know. Regardless of what your energy needs are and however you choose to recharge in life, those are valid. You know, you don't have to try and make yourself into a person that you're not just because you want. Like, for a long time, I had this weird thought where I was like, well, I wish that I liked going out. So then I would go out all the time because in my head, if I did it enough, I would somehow magically enjoy it. And I never did. I was just miserable because I was going out every weekend and having a million people over every week. Like, I was doing the opposite of what I enjoyed for, like, my social needs. But then I was miserable. But I convinced myself that if I just kept doing it, one of these times I was going to wake up and be like, wow, I feel great. I'm so happy that I spent 8 hours with random people that I don't know that well. Guess what? It never fucking changed shit. And now I'm arguably more introverted than I was in, like, high school. When it comes to building a balanced social life, I think one of the hardest things to learn is, like, strategic socializing. You don't have to avoid social events completely. It's 100% about finding the right balance. For example, like, you can be selective about which events you want to attend. And by events, I literally mean, like, anything. Like, that could be anything. That could be going to a friend's house, going to a bar, going to drinks, going to supper, going on a trip, whatever that looks like. You can be selective about which events to attend and how to protect your energy while you're there. For example, if your friend is having a bunch of people over, you can go, but you might just leave early to prevent feeling burnt out. You know, you might show up a little bit earlier when it's quiet, and then later into the night as it gets super busy, you're going to say, okay, bye, I'm going. Toodaloo, or you Irish goodbye like Emily does and just disappear, and then everybody's like, where did Emily go? Don't do that. I'm trying to get better. You can still go. Just because you classify as an introvert doesn't mean you have to say no to every social event that comes up in your life. Go, show up for a bit, say hi, see all your people, and then leave early. Go to bed early. Have a nice shower, go to bed, wake up early in the morning, and feel great. Kind of for a recap, some of the best tips for self-care as an introvert: designate time for your solitude and recharge time. Put it in your calendar. Make it a non-negotiable in your life. Practice saying no and setting your boundaries. Obviously in a respectful way, but in a way that doesn't leave room for, like, a weird negotiation with people in your life. Prioritize your activities and relationships that bring you peace, and understand that downtime is a form of self-investment. Because guess what? If you are an introvert and you're constantly forcing yourself to go out and try and be social and you're miserable all the time, you're not benefiting yourself in any way, shape, or form. Put yourself out of your comfort zone occasionally. You know, I'm not saying that you have to force yourself to go out every single weekend. Maybe a couple times a year. You know, go to your work party, or, I don't know, go to a friend's birthday. Do things, but in a balanced way. Go to the thing, leave early, or show up to the thing late, stay for a couple hours, and then go. We've moved away from, like, the boss babe era of the internet, but I think we're still very much stuck in this mentality of, like, you constantly have to be doing more, and socializing is not escaped of that. Like, people expect you to socialize all day, every day, and it's just not what fulfills a huge chunk of people. So if you find that you're more introverted, or, you know, you fall in the weird middle, I think that's a whole nother thing that you could talk about, is, like, the weird extroverted introverts, where you kind of fall down the middle of the line. A lot of these tips are still going to be really helpful. Like, a lot of these things you still need to prioritize, because yes, you can feel recharged from social gatherings, but the introverted part of you is still going to need that, like, solo recharge time. So you need to do that. Like, I think it's really important to understand why that's influential in people's lives, and that it's not, like, this negotiable thing that you can just, like, well, I don't really need to spend time with myself this week. Like, I can do it next month. Not how it works. You're going to be miserable. So anyways, thanks so much for listening, guys. If you made it this far, I appreciate you. We're on YouTube, and I say it every week, but I'll continue to say it. So if you would rather watch your podcasts, link will be in the show note. Go follow me on Instagram, Elevate with Emily Podcast for the podcast, EB Fit for the gym page, and Emily Brilliard for my personal. But yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I hope that you take some time this week to sit with yourself, figure out what benefits you most when it comes to your recharge time, and practice setting some boundaries with the people in your life in a respectful way, but in a way that, again, doesn't make it like this negotiable thing of, oh no, you really should come out. No, I'm saying no. But you really, no. So anyways, I hope you guys have an awesome week and we'll chat next time.